And with that, I think we can get started. So let's do it. Welcome, everyone, to the call. My name is Charles Chamberlain, and I'm the Executive Director of Democracy for America. We're honored to be joined tonight by Representative Keith Ellison and Democracy for America Chair Jim Dean for what promises to be a fantastic conversation. Now, before I bring Keith on the call, I want to make sure you know that we would love to take your questions tonight. If you'd like to ask Representative Ellison a question, please press 0 on your phone, and you'll be connected with a DFA staff member. Again, please press 0 right now if you'd like to ask a question of Keith Ellison. Now, if you're listening to this call on democracyforamerica.com, you can also submit a question through the live web stream on your right. At this very moment, or very soon, Donald Trump is speaking about his choice to fill the Supreme Court vacancy, a vacancy that only exists because Republicans blocked President Obama from fulfilling his constitutional duty for more than a year. It's critical that Senate Democrats stand united against allowing Republicans to steal this seat. And only 8 days into this presidency, with unconstitutional and un-American executive orders, unqualified cabinet appointees, and the unprecedented firing of the Attorney General, something that hasn't happened since the years of Nixon, it is more clear than ever that it will take a massive movement to resist Donald Trump, rebuild the Democratic Party, and win back state legislatures, Congress, and the White House. Now, one place that fight starts is with the Democratic Party and the future of the Democratic National Committee. We've got just the person to help lead that effort. And to introduce him, I'd like to welcome Jim Dean to the call. Jim, are you there?
Charles, I sure am. And folks, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join Charles and I and Representative Ellison and a whole bunch of other folks on this call. You probably recall that in December, we held a member poll asking members of Democracy for America and whether we should endorse in this DNC chair race. And the results came in loud and clear, and Congressman Keith Ellison won 87.4% of the vote. And he won it because he knows that the Democratic Party is stronger when it's built from the bottom up in every single state and every single community every single day. And DFA members are joining with a whole ton of other great groups, along with Senator Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, the AFL-CIO, and numerous other progressive Democratic Party leaders across America to endorse Keith Ellison because we need his unyielding voice to lead the fight against Donald Trump's agenda of bigotry, hate, and greed. And right now, folks, a lot of you and a whole ton of other people have been out in the streets demonstrating what this democracy is really about. Taking action against this agenda of bigotry and against this agenda of Donald Trump. We are moving this country forward, and a whole lot of people who haven't even been involved in the political process are moving this country forward. These and you are the generation of leaders for tomorrow's Democratic Party, and there is no person that understands this better and that lives this every day than Congressman Keith Ellison. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just ask his staff and what they're going to be doing this summer. They're out organizing. They're doing community meetings all over the place. They never stop organizing. It's one of the reasons why the voter turnout in Keith Ellison's district has almost doubled or even tripled since he became a congressman from Minnesota. This guy gets it. He is an organizer's organizer. And Congressman Keith Ellison, I could not be prouder that we are involved in this race. I could be not more grateful that you have afforded us the opportunity to support your efforts. And I just am incredibly grateful to you for stepping up to the plate to lead this party. And with that, folks, let's give it up for the next chair of the Democratic National Committee. Please welcome Congressman Keith Ellison.
Well, hey, let me say thanks, Jim. Thanks, Charlie. And thanks to the whole DFA family. I'm so grateful to you guys for fighting out there every day. You know, let me tell you very, very simply, when Democrats, progressive Democrats, don't win elections, real people get hurt. And all of this excellent energy we see pouring out into the streets of our country, whether it's the Women's March or the protests we saw at the airports, we have to convert all of this progressive energy into electoral success, because we know that we're in this mess because of the outcome of the election, and we're going to get out of this mess because we mobilize people all over this country and use our First Amendment right and to get people to exercise their right to vote, and that is going to be a part of our progressive comeback. I just want to be clear. The reason I'm running for DNC chair and I'm willing to leave my seat in Congress is because it doesn't do me any good or any of my constituents any good to just sit up in the comfort of my seat in the 5th Congressional District and see Democrats losing all over this country as Republicans at the state level are pushing right to work for less, anti-choice bills, all kinds of nasty stuff, and then federally stripping away health care and even through executive orders hurting people. This week, we've seen President Trump push a Muslim ban, and make no mistake about it, it is a Muslim ban. I've seen Republicans say, oh, it's not a Muslim ban because it doesn't ban every Muslim. Well, it bans the people that it does ban because of they're Muslim, and that makes it a Muslim ban. And by the way, Trump on December 7th, 2015 said he wanted a complete and total ban of Muslims, so we'll take him at his word. But, our country has not ever had a ban or a restriction based strictly on religion before, and we cannot tolerate it now. If it's Muslims today, it could be Seventh-day Adventists tomorrow. It could be Protestants the next day. It could be Mormons the next day. We cannot tolerate this kind of thing. We have got to be against it 100%. And the Democratic Party should be that organizing vehicle that brings us all together, whether we are fighting for immigration reform, climate justice, whether we're fighting for economic reform, 15 in a union, whether we're fighting for women's equality, LGBT equality. We all can come together and vote progressive Democrats into office so that we can win and establish a better life for everyone. And as DNC chair, I'm going to tell you this. We're not just going to focus on the presidency. We're going to be working to help people at the dog catcher, city council, zoning board, a school board, state legislator, county attorneys' races, prosecutors' offices, attorneys general, state attorneys general, governors, all the way up and all the way down. We have got to organize everywhere and all the time. In my campaign, when I run for Congress, I have a slogan, and it goes something like this: everybody counts, everybody matters. And we believe that that's not just a list of policy ideas. That is the manner and the way in which we get elected. We want to engage everyone in this democratic process because we believe democracy works best when we have high participation. So if I'm elected, we're going to turn on during the off year. We will have a summer canvass this year. We want to collaborate with Democracy for America. We want to collaborate with you and engage and work together because, teamwork makes the dream work. We want to get massive numbers of people knocking on doors, registering voters, doing voter education, talking about what we can do as Americans, as people, to have a better country where everybody's included and everybody has an opportunity to have a high degree of prosperity. This country is the richest country in the history of the world. There's no need for people to be living on starvation wages in America. It's just because some people at the top have hoarded and other people at the bottom have not had an opportunity. So the Democratic Party has to be a vehicle that helps people retire in security and in comfort. It has to be the party that makes sure wages and working conditions are fair. And it has to be the party that fights for public education, peace abroad in our environment. And so that's why I'm running. And I just want to let you all know that nobody can do this alone. In fact, I think the least important part of the Democratic National Committee is the chair. The chair should be a servant. The chair should be trying to leverage the talent and ability and creativity of everyone else. And so I just want to say that I think I'm qualified to do the job because I've gotten myself and many Democrats elected. I've organized my district from the lowest turnout district in Minnesota to the highest turnout district in Minnesota by expanding the electorate, by talking to voters in the off year, building a relationship with them in the year with not asking them for a vote, just tending to their needs, and then by coming to folks in the election year and telling them that if they want to have a better outcome for their life and their family, they need to be at the polls. We've talked to people who are low-income folks, renters, disabled, people of color, workers, veterans, the homeless, and we've organized them all to vote, and that's how we jacked the voter turnout. And we did it by doing it 365 days a year, I've traveled to nearly 30 states in the last 2 years to campaign and raise money for candidates up and down the ballot, from president to city council. In fact, I knocked doors and trained organizers in Ferguson. Remember when Mike Brown was shot in Ferguson, voter turnout in the previous election was 12%. And so we went to Ferguson, trained a bunch of organizers, led some door knocks, and we went out there and we found that in the next election, municipal election, 30% turnout. That's more than double, and they flipped the council just by that nudge upward. And so, look, I believe that the problem is not turning Tea Partiers into progressives. We just got to get progressives to the ballot box. And that means the Democratic Party has to be worth voting for, and we have to lift up that progressive platform that Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton helped write together. And we need to let people know what we stand for, and we need to get the grassroots engaged full time. So I'm hoping to be the next DNC chair. I'm hoping to engage grassroots in a massive turnout all over the country around a progressive platform. And I believe that the future is bright if we simply acknowledge that getting more people engaged is the path forward. And this method that the Democratic Party has relied on, which is to only talk to likely voters in swing states, has failed us. This method of only talking to likely voters in swing states has failed us. We've got to go to the red and the blue states. We've got to go all over the country. We've got to work all year round. And so the future relies on grassroots organizing, turning out the vote successfully, giving some people good to vote for, recruiting, training, and lifting up those young and not so young candidates who are running for the first time. I have a track record of helping build that bench, and so that's why I'm running. And I think that the progressive way forward means revamping the Democratic Party, and I just want to be a part of that process. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but let me just thank Jim and Charlie and everybody engaged with Democrats for America. I really am honored to carry your support. Honored to carry the support of the AFL-CIO, the nurses, the communication workers of America, steel workers, AFSCME, American Federation of Teachers, American Government, AFGE, and we have and more. And we're honored to have the support of our grassroots activists out there, DFA, PDA, Move On. And let me tell you, we're going to engage all of that energy around a progressive platform to move the Democratic Party forward. And I just got, this is just in, the Jewish Caucus of the Young Democrats of America just endorsed me. Very honored to have their support. Big thanks to those guys. And so there you go, man. I'm happy to answer any questions. But let me just tell you, we got to do this thing together. But if we do it together in unity, we can turn a whole lot of things around in a short order.
That's fantastic, and really a good overview of how you're looking at this race and how you're looking at what you want to do in reforming the Democratic Party. I'm excited to hear your answers to the questions, and I'm sure that many of these questions are going to be directly related to what you're going to do as the DNC chair. But to be honest, we got to start right away with the breaking news that happened while you were speaking, and that is that Trump has announced that he will nominate Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Now, obviously, Neil is surely going to uphold Trump's bigoted, unconstitutional executive orders, targeting Muslims, immigrants, refugees, and other people of color. He's going to help Trump and Steve Bannon wage their unprecedented attack on our constitutional and our basic rights. And what has happened is, since even before this happened, Senator Jeff Merkley has stood up and said that he will filibuster any of Trump's nominees that isn't named Merrick Garland, because we can't allow Republicans to steal his seat. I would love to hear your immediate thoughts on this choice and what you'd like to see the Democratic Party do as we move ahead.
Well, let me tell you, Neil Gorsuch is in the mold of Antonin Scalia. And that's pretty much all you need to know right there. He will be reliably extreme. He is going to be a voice for strange sort of understanding of the Constitution. He'll be an ally of people like Clarence Thomas and such as that. Trump promised to nominate justices very much in the mold of Scalia, and he has done so. This guy was part of the Hobby Lobby decision. And by the way, he's openly contemptuous and hostile to liberals and progressives. He said things like American liberals have become addicted to the courtroom, relying on judges and lawyers rather than electing leaders at the ballot box. This from a conservative, when the conservatives are doing all they can to restrict people from the ballot box. This guy has also, he's for all the wrong things. As I mentioned, the Hobby Lobby decision, which he was on that as an appellate judge, but there are many more. We're researching him, but let me just come to the bottom line. We must oppose this guy. We must stop him. We must not allow him to move forward. We need to fight him every single step of the way, and that means in the streets. That means in the suites. That means in the courts. That means in the pages of the newspaper. We just simply cannot allow this guy to move forward. We need lawyers like, Sally Yates, who has some backbone and is going to stand up for the Constitution. So that's my take on that one. We got to oppose him at every turn.
What I really like about your answer there is that you didn't just talk about why it is we can't let him take the seat. You didn't just talk about, the values that are behind that decision. But you also talked about proposing an option of who we would like to see. I think that one of the things that makes the obstruction that the grassroots in the Democratic Party and the grassroots on the ground in America are calling for, that different from the kind of obstruction that Mitch McConnell did, is that we don't want to just obstruct. We want to propose real solutions and real changes that can repair it. If they're talking about if they truly wanted to make Obamacare better, they could make it Medicare for all. That's the idea of saying we're going to obstruct you if you try to take this apart because here's the real policy that would actually move America forward. So I really like that way in which you're thinking of it. Keith, I do want to move to a group leader question before I get to the live questions from our callers. And again, if you're calling in and you'd like to ask a question to Keith Ellison, just press 0 on your phone right now, and you'll be transferred to one of our DFA staff members to set you up to ask Keith a question. But I want to start right away with Anna Callahan from Berkeley, California, who's a group leader on the ground there, who asks, how will you ensure that the DNC is impartial with regard to presidential candidates? That neither the DNC nor any staff member of the DNC acts to favor one presidential candidate over another.
Well, the first thing we're going to do is start a culture in which we make it absolutely crystal clear that it is the role of the DNC to be scrupulously fair to all primary candidates, that everybody gets the same information, everybody gets the same access, nobody gets an advantage. And I will tell them, yes, it is shameful and outrageous that we were hacked. But if we ever get hacked again, all they're going to find is email traffic showing that the DNC is going to be absolutely impartial to all candidates who are running in the primary with equal access to all. I think the Unity Commission process is going to be helpful. They are going to take on the superdelegate issue, but they're not limited to that. And I think that we need to have a full hearing of all of the issues that DNC members believe need to be considered to make sure that not only is it a fair process, but it is deemed to be fair. It is seen as fair. People believe they have a fair shot and, in fact, do have a fair shot. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I view it as one of the primary responsibilities of the incoming chair to assure every primary candidate that they have an equal opportunity. Because I'm going to tell you this, too. I believe that a fair process that's open for everybody will yield the strongest candidate, right? I think if you ever, if the party ever puts its finger on the scale for one candidate, that candidate is actually not having to, go through the process so that people can really see, who they are, how they handle themselves in different situations, how they react under stress. under being tired and fatigued. And so I think it is key that we treat everybody fair and that nobody get sort of a pass and nobody is perceived to be getting a pass. So those are some of my ideas right there. I think it's key to attracting progressives and Democrats and everybody back into the Democratic fold because if people don't think it's fair, they're not going to come back in. So it's got to be crystal clear.
Well said. Very, very well said. And there's no question at DFA that we believe competitive primaries are key because they bring the best ideas. They rise to the top and they make our party stronger. So I couldn't agree with you more about the benefit of actually having a robust primary with no party apparatus putting their thumbs on the scale. Let's go to our first live question. We've got Louise, I believe, in Laguaus. I may have totally butchered your last name, from Massachusetts. Are you on the line, Louise?
Yes, I am. Hi, it's Louise Legui here. And my question is, how can the Democratic National Committee work towards a more permanent solution to voter turnout? In other countries, voting is mandatory. I believe it's a very important civic duty, certainly as important as serving on jury duty. And I'm wondering if there are any ways the DNC can work towards this sort of thing, making voting mandatory or having a national holiday on voting day to help ensure that voters are able to turn out each and every year in all states, all districts. Thank you.
Hey, this is a great question. This is one of my favorite questions. So, Louise, I'm going to answer. I got a three-pronged plan to maximize voter turnout. One is that the DNC needs to knock on every door. The DNC needs to have a very active field canvass in the off years to knock on every door. We need to show up at every naturalization ceremony where we're registering people to vote. Every graduation, we need to be active, making sure that everybody is voting. Going to the low turnout districts and having voter, awareness days, things like that. And this is what we have done in the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota. Minnesota has the highest voter turnout in the nation for a reason. Part of it is that we just work on it really, really hard all the time. Now, the second thing is we do need changes in law. We know that changes in law will actually help, but we don't just rely on changes in law, but the DNC should push same-day voter registration, automatic registration. We should push voting by mail, early voting. We should push having voter holidays. We should push these things. And this is how we will increase voter turnout. If you ask the non-voter why they didn't vote, many of them will say we didn't have time. And when you look at the fact that so many people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to make it, getting on buses early, can't get time off to vote, these things like early voting, the holiday voting, voting by mail become incredibly important. So that is the second thing we have to do. Now, the third thing is super important. If I'm the DNC chair, we will organize legal workers and lawyers all over the country. Now, you don't have to have a degree to be part of this, but we are going to organize lawyers and legal workers and interested people to protect and expand the vote. And what we want to do is we want to ask them as agents of the Democratic Party to reach out to the election officials a year, 6 months before the election and ask the questions. Where are the voting machines? What do they look like? Are we going to have a dry run? What do the ballots look like? Do you have enough machines? Based on the expected turnout, are you ready for this thing? To really engage them early on as a community group that is dedicated to this purpose, and we'll do it all over the country. Are the voting machines close enough to the reservation? Are the voting materials printed in a language that everybody can understand? And then the next thing that they do is show up on election day and monitor the election process, make sure nobody is intimidated, and then they report any irregularities, and then we make a decision as to whether we're going to sue to enforce the law, which we will tend to do, which we will do when the violations do occur. But I will say that just a group of Democrats dedicated to expanding and protecting the vote year-round is key. This is an organizing challenge, and there are enough Democratic legal workers and lawyers and concerned people to do this kind of work. And so those are a three-pronged plan to maximize turnout. And let me tell you, in Detroit, Michigan, we lost the state of Michigan. We had 100,000 fewer people vote in Michigan between 2012 and 2016. And I'm telling you that the fact is that if we would have been protecting the vote, fighting to expand the vote, and checking the election process, I don't believe that would have happened. We have enough people to win the elections. We literally have enough people, but what we don't have is enough people voting. That's because some people are obstructed by voter suppression. That's because some people are just not engaged enough by the party to get out and vote. And that's because sometimes we have the electoral system is not amenable to people voting because it's complicated, hard, and not well suited to people's lives. So that's my response, and I thank you for asking that question.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with you that we need to expand the voting, and I think that was a fantastic, very thorough response that really described all the different ways in which the DNC can impact that, and the Democratic Party in general can impact that in states across the country. I definitely want to go to another DFA leader we have on the ground in Washington State, Shoreline, Washington. Dan Jacoby, are you on the line?
I'm here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
All right, thanks. Hi, Congressman. I was an original Democracy for America member. I was in the room when the governor announced what we then called DFA 2. I've been involved ever since. Last year, I was a field organizer for Pramila Jayapal's congressional campaign. And that gives me some real street cred now when I walk into a lot of these new grassroots groups that are popping up all over the place. But even I have, with that credibility, have a real problem in that these people don't trust the Democratic Party. 30 years of DLC politics has really created that wall. And I know you know that we need to break down that wall. We need to get these people to start trusting that the Democratic Party is really what they want. Do you have any ideas, any plans, any messages, any systems of trying to get these people to start trusting us and become involved in the Democratic Party as well as their own grassroots groups?
Yes, I do. So, look, if you and I used to be close, but then you hadn't seen me in a while and you heard that I was sort of not the same guy I used to be, what if I want to now regain your trust? How would I do it? Well, I'd start calling you. I'd stay in touch with you. You'd see me. I'd show up. I'd make sure that whatever I told you, I absolutely followed through on, and then after a while, you'd begin to give me a chance, and then maybe you'd start trusting me again. And that's what the Democratic Party has to do. So the Democratic Party needs to start showing up. And, I mean, it seems simple, but let me assure you that the Democratic Party's attitude is if you're in a red state or you're in a blue state, we don't need to talk to you. We only go to swing states during the presidential, and then we only talk to you through television. This is why I believe it really is revolutionary to have not just a 50-state strategy, but a 3,143 county strategy where we are in touch with people all over. So we're showing up to Pride Parade. We're showing up to Juneteenth. We're showing up to Cinco de Mayo. We're showing up to the Women's March. We're printing literature talking about what we're doing, where the Democratic leaders are saying good things about the people's movement, where, we're telling people, demonstrate by all means, sue by all means, but don't forget that we can change this thing around at an election time. Help people really understand that we got into this mess because of an election, and we're going to get out of it because of an election. And so that's really what we've got to do, man. I mean, it seems simple, but it actually is quite difficult because, as you say, we have kind of been under the spell of the philosophy that Democrats need to act more like Republicans to win. And obviously that has failed. And so let's try to just be Democrats for a while, I mean, the two great things about when people really get misty-eyed about the Democratic Party, usually it has something to do with Roosevelt and the New Deal and stuff like Social Security and labor law and stuff like that, or it has something to do with the Civil Rights Movement. Hubert H. Humphrey talking about walking out of the dark night of states' rights into the bright sunshine of human rights. or Martin Luther King talking with John Kennedy or LBJ about the need to sign the Voting Rights Act. These kind of things where people get a little emotional about the Democratic Party. But we've got to be that party again. We've got to be there. And look, we are living in interesting times. The Democratic Party better stand up for people who are having a wall built on them, or having a ban imposed on them, or federal government employees who are facing a hiring freeze. And, that's going to drive up unemployment and stress out workers all over this country. And and these folks who we've got to be a friend. You want a friend? Be a friend. And the Democratic Party has to really come to grips with the fact that it does not exist for the benefit of the Democrats. The Democratic Party exists for the benefit of the American people. And once we come to full grips with that and understand we are on a mission to improve the lives of the American people, then we'll be trusted. We'll have partners. We'll win elections. We'll make a better community.
Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense to me. I have another question. This one comes from northern New Jersey, and I think that Melissa Welma's story is very common among especially Bernie supporters across the country and DFA activists. Melissa, are you on the call?
Hi, yes, I'm on the call.
Excellent. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, Keith. I just want to say thank you for instilling hope in a lot of us, especially about moving the party forward. My question is I would like to be more active, and I would like to cast my vote for you, but how would I do that? I'm registered as a Democrat, but how would I be able to be on the committee to vote?
Well, there are the rules that we have, and there's the rules that we wish we had. The rules that we have are that there are 447 people who are eligible to vote. They are members of the Democratic National Committee. If I become chair of the DNC, you will see a stronger progressive presence on the DNC because I will have the prerogative to appoint, certain DNC members. But really, we should have a different system. But, to be quite candid with you, I don't see us changing the system radically overnight. Maybe it could be, but, at this point, rank-and-file Democrats don't pick the DNC chair. DNC board members pick the DNC chair, and that's 447 people. And let me tell you that what you can do in the short term until we do change these rules is just write positively about the campaign. You can speak positively about it. You can tweet positively about it. You can talk about, your vision for the DNC and the Democratic Party. But at this point, this election is in a few days, and it'll be on February 24th. It'll be in Atlanta, Georgia, and whoever gets half of the vote wins. And that's the current situation that we have. But there are ways you can help, and I do want to share a few of those with you. One is you can add your name to a growing list of supporters. If you go to Keith for DNC, Keith FOR DNC, you can sign up, and we would love to have you on that list. We are going to use the list to organize the DNC after we win and to share information with you between now and when we win. You can support the campaign on social media. Tell friends, family why you support my campaign, and you can, tweet something out. You can send something out on Facebook. It would be big help. You can attend a regional forum. There's one coming up in Detroit this weekend, and there's one in Baltimore coming up in a few weeks. It would be great if you went to that, watched it, submitted a question. It would be great. And then you could stay informed as we send information out and, share stories about, the campaign with your friends, family on social media. And then I'd love to hear your story. You may have a story about why you need the DNC to reform itself, to renew itself, and to be more responsive to the people. And if you send us a letter we would love to have it. And if you want to give us your permission, we'll even try to publicize it so people will understand. And then, of course, you can, just sort of like give us your well wishes, prayers, hopes, all that kind of stuff. We need all that kind of help. And so that's what you can do. And if you know somebody who's a DNC member, let them know how you feel. I have had a few DNC members tell me that folks have said to them things like they're going to quit the Democratic Party if I don't get to be the DNC chair. And I just want to let you know that doesn't really help because people just feel pressured. But if you just say your views in a just kind of a chill way, I think that'll be just fine. But that's the story.
So Keith, my understanding is that if you're an elected member of Congress, that you have a vote in the DNC. Is that correct?
No.
And if it is correct, it's not.
It is not. Now, some members of Congress do have a vote, but most do not. I'll tell you the ones who come to mind: Barbara Lee, Maxine Waters, Greg Meeks, Grace Ming, Danny Davis. Those are the ones that come to mind right away. Who have a vote, but no, not everybody has a vote. The truth is that most members of Congress don't, but a lot of members of Congress have influence on the vote and the outcome, and so getting them on board is helpful. But,
so would it be helpful for members to reach out to Democratic members of Congress and ask them to endorse your campaign publicly?
Yes, it would. It actually would help.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like another great thing for people to do. Let's move on to the next question. I have a great question from Gainesville, Florida. Zachary Hall. Zachary, are you on the call?
Yes, here I am.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and ask the question.
Congressman Ellison, my question is, how do we unite the different wings of the progressive left? Because the one thing that I'm really scared that I'm observing is that there are no real coalitions anymore. We have some people who want to focus on social issues but don't care about the impact of corporate sponsorships, basically. And on the other hand, we have people that are anti-corporate and want economic justice and environmental justice, but they refuse to understand that doesn't do anything to specifically address issues that affect specific groups. And I want to know, how do we bring these two branches together for a more complete progressive agenda?
Great question.
Well, this is an excellent question. Let me say, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that in the local community, you build that coalition. You call together, the 350.org people. You call together the Fight for 15 people. You call together the immigrant rights progressive people. You call together the Black Lives Matter people and any other progressive groups that you know. And you tell them, look, can we unite around something? Maybe even anything. Can we unite around the issue of, opposing the Muslim ban? Can we unite around increasing the minimum wage? What can we come together to unite around? Can we unite around green jobs? And we just begin a table where we're having regular dialogue with each other. You know what I mean? Like, even if it was a monthly, like every first Wednesday at 8 a.m., and tell them you're going to get them out the door by 9 a.m. Make sure there's coffee, right? And we're just going to get together and we're going to crunch on what everybody is doing. And we're going to figure out how we can work together. That is how you coalitions must be built, And I can tell you, as DNC chair, I am going to be working with all of our progressive groups. I mean the progressive groups. I'm talking about, Democrats for America. I'm talking about 350.org. and BLM, and we will be talking about, what we need to do to make the DNC worthy of your support. I'm not going to get on the phone and say, oh, come on, guys, support the DNC, and then the DNC hasn't even changed. We're going to say we're going to ask you, what does the DNC need to be like in order to win your support? And then what we will do is be that progressive organization that's truly fighting for people, and then we'll go out there and we will win, and we will advance a progressive agenda. And then the other thing we're going to do is train and organize people. I mean, we've got to get people, beyond just get people to trust the Democratic Party, we got to get people trusting electoral politics at all. We got to get people running. And I know that because you've been around a long time, that if we don't get our people running, then somebody is going to be in that office, and when they're in that office, they're going to do stuff we don't like. That's the bottom line. We've got to get our activists thinking about running for city council, school boards, and then maybe one day Congress, and maybe even president one day. Remember, Obama does come out of community organizing, right? And that kind of getting the progressive activists to run for office, like Paul Wellstone encouraged me to do, and many others, that's the way forward. So I don't know if that answers the question as well as it should be, but those are my thoughts.
Excellent, and very much appreciated. Let's go to the next question from Chicago, Illinois. We have Chad Summer. Chad, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Great, let's do it. Hi, thank you, Congressman, for your time and taking all of our calls. It seems that elections these days are really decided by independents, and independents really crave authenticity. We see that even with Trump's election. Quote unquote, I like him because he speaks his mind. And so my question is, how do we get to see the other leaders in the Democratic Party that Republican light comes across as inauthentic? Democrats with that talk about the poor and the working class but have deep roots with Wall Street come across as, well, not just come across, they are inauthentic. So I think that to your point earlier, that it's a mistake to try to move to the center, but not only is it a mistake to move to the center, it's a mistake to think that you can bamboozle Americans by saying one thing, but then having, really an inauthentic, not having the background that lives up to what you're saying. So how do we impress upon other leaders of the Democrats that authenticity matters?
Let me tell you how we do it. So we take a page from DFA, quite frankly. You guys back candidates all over this country, and you've had a lot of electoral success. And because they come up out of a grassroots movement, they never forget who supported them in the beginning and why they're running. The truth is, if the Democratic Party just goes to the self-funder and then tells them, oh, we say these talking points because they might help you get elected, even though you've never lived it, you've never walked it, you've never done it, then, of course, that's going to be rough, man. You know what I'm saying? But we really have got to cultivate that base. And once you see people winning who are authentic, then you'll see the copycat phenomenon take over, and more people will be authentic. Let's just be honest. If we can be perfectly candid here, it made it really hard for Hillary Clinton to stand up and debate Trump over trade, given the background of NAFTA and TPP. It just made it very difficult, And so, I could tell you that I've fought I fought the hell out of the Trade Promotion Authority and the TPP from day one. And as a result, I'm probably not getting any Christmas cards from certain folks. But my point is, I feel good about it because, it's bad for America. It's bad for working people. But being authentic makes you take hits sometimes. Being honest makes you vulnerable. I mean, people want candid politicians, but a lot of times when you are candid, people will take your inelegant comments and beat you in the brain with them for the next 25 years. But let me just say that the way to get a more authentic public official is to cultivate them from the grassroots, support them when they're in the beginning of their career, and then you will end up with a body of authentic politicians. I mean, like Elizabeth Warren, she started out fighting for consumers. She's still doing it. Sherrod Brown started out fighting for workers. He's still doing it. I mean, this is how, you got to do it. And in the meantime, we've just got to have the I tell you, there's an old African proverb that says, when the brave warrior walks in, all backs stiffen. And what it means is that if you show a little courage, it can be contagious. So when DFA stands up strong, everybody who's connected to it kind of finds their voice a little bit, if you know what I mean, Charlie. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, and you can, courage is contagious. So my thought is, let's cultivate them, let's bring them up, and let's back them, and then let's not be afraid to say that it shouldn't just be the self-funder, right? So that's my take.
Yeah. I think you make a really important point there, and not only did you make the point, you made it authentically, speaking from your own heart about how it is that you view and do this, and I think that couldn't be a better way of making it clear what it means. When you think about when we win, we almost always win with the candidate that actually connects through authenticity, and when we lose, it's usually because the candidate doesn't. And I think that your example of what happened with Clinton and the comments on trade and her mixed bag record on economic populism is definitely part of what made it harder for people, for the working class across this country to connect with her. So it's that kind of talking truth and really identifying what works and what doesn't that I think is part of how we can look to the past and see what we've done well and see what we've done wrong and fix it moving forward. So it's exciting to have someone like you that's running for this position who is authentic and gets it, who can be one of the leaders of the party that shows that is the path forward that wins. So thank you so much for being real on that, Keith. I definitely want to move to my next caller. His name is Amir. Amir, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you for taking my question.
You bet.
Why
don't you go ahead?
I just want to say, sure thing. First, I just want to say thank you to the DFA for hosting this. Thank you for the congressman for taking the time out to speak to constituents. And thank you to all the other Americans who called in and asked some great questions. I have a statement that's going to lead up to a question, so I would just ask for a quick minute of your time, if you don't mind.
Yep, go for it.
Sure thing. So I know that millions of Americans are scared because they know this ban does not make us more safe, and all it does is feed into the hands of the ISIS propaganda machine that will use this to show that America is at war with Islam. As refugees, my family has been privileged enough to call this great land our land for the past 17 years. And as a Muslim myself, I can honestly say with all my heart that I personally know America is not at war with Islam. My father is an American refugee, disabled veteran, and also a Muslim with a master's degree. He has literally broken his back for this country, and there are many other Muslims like him who have broken bones, bled, and lost their lives in service to this great nation. They are just one example of refugees and immigrants assimilating and striving every day to make this country the best possible place to live for all Americans. Every day there are Muslims who go to work and try their best to make each day better than the last, not just for their fellow Muslims, but for their fellow Americans. And let's please get one thing clear. The majority of America did not vote for Donald Trump. Statistics show that 40% of all eligible voters in America did not vote. That is because Trump engaged the millions who felt the current political process was not working for them and it took Trump and his xenophobic, divisive, and hateful rhetoric to get them to take part in the election. Even with those millions of additional votes, he still lost the popular vote by over 3 million votes, and voter turnout dropped to the lowest point it has in over 20 years. That shows there are millions more who still feel left out, who still feel disengaged with the current political process, and who feel that politics is nothing but a charade, a popularity contest, or a fundraising battle. They did not want to vote for Hillary or her Wall Street ties and her lack of transparency, and they did not want to vote for Trump and his blame game politics and divisive and xenophobic rhetoric. They knew that a third party stands no chance, so they decided not to vote, and most decided not to even register. So, Congressman, what is your plan to engage those millions of eligible voters?
That's a great question, Amir, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to your dad, thank you to your family for the sacrifice you make to make America a better place. And I also want to just say, honestly, man, there's a lot of people really hurting tonight. A lot of people worried. A lot of people praying that nobody throws pig blood at the mosque door. Nobody shoots some shots to the mosque door. Nobody shows up on Friday to get violent like they did in Canada the other day. No, people hoping that nobody pulls their daughter's hijab off her head, or there's a lot of worry around our country. And for all of folks who are of other faiths or don't practice any religion, please put your hands around your Muslim neighbors. I just ask you to do that because folks are nervous. And some of them they got so much personal pride, they might not say they're nervous, but just like a kindness would be good. Okay, so let me answer your question this way. I agree that people, when they don't feel that they have a party they can vote for, and they don't feel that they can vote for the other side, they just stay home. That's why what I'm saying is that we've got to push the progressive platform, which really is a good platform. We've got to reach out all over the country. We've got to talk to the unlikely voter, the fall-off voter in the red state and in the blue state. We got to go to the rural communities. We got to talk to a wide range of people. We got to have a canvas that begins right away. We got to have a communication system that reaches over the mainstream media directly to the rank and file Democrat and potential Democrat. We've got to demonstrate solidarity with these movements. We don't want to co-opt the movements, but we do want to demonstrate solidarity with them. There's a difference. One is trying to take over. The other one is saying, we're with you, we agree, and we're here to support you. I think Democrats all over this country ought to go buy a bunch of hot coffee, bring it to the march, and pour it for people who are standing in the cold, and ought to stand there with signs, I'm a Democrat and I'm with this march. But like I was explained earlier in the conversation, Amir, if you want a friend, you got to be one. And what the Democratic Party has to do is show up consistently, show up over time, and then do what we say we're going to do. And we've got to cultivate, recruit, and organize new candidates all over the country. We've got to feel that we can win in rural Kentucky, and we can win, and we can increase voter turnout in urban New York. We can't leave any space alone. So I want to thank you for your commitment and just tell you that despite the tough times that our country is facing right now, don't let cynicism sink in. Don't let anybody tell you it's hopeless. It's not hopeless. Things will get better, but we've got to organize, and we've got to stand together, and we've got to be in unity. So thank you.
That's fantastic and quite an inspiring way to look at it. I think we're basically at the end of this call. What I want to do is give you a chance to wrap this up. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to share with us that maybe build on what you just said, or anything else?
Yeah, Charlie. Let me just say thanks to you again, Charlie and Jim, and everybody on the call, everybody who asked the question. I love this call that you guys do, and let me tell you, your organize is bearing fruit. Let me tell you, the real organizer nowadays has got to go to people who might feel beleaguered or discouraged. You got to go to people who feel nervous and afraid or just want to, be inside the house and hope it all ends up, blows over. The real organizer is going to have to find courage where there's no good reason to have any. The real organizer is going to have to say, you know what, this thing might really suck, but I'm going to stand up and I'm going to find something within me to make me believe that getting out here and connecting with my neighbors can make a positive difference. If you will do that, I promise you we will have big-time election success in 2017, 2018, and 2020. You know, I know that the election of Donald Trump was a low moment in the history of America. But if we can salvage something from this tragic situation, it is that we will be in a position to remake the Democratic Party in an image which really does serve the American people. And it may be for the first time in a long time, let's be honest. So let me just say that it's all about the grassroots, and let me just say power to the people. That's what we're about, and that together we're going to change things. But right now I need to get in that DNC chair, and with your help, with your goodwill, I'm sure we'll get there too. So thanks a lot, Charlie, Jim, and everybody on the call, and you can count me as a friend of DFA. See you later.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Keith. Congressman, you're an inspiration to all of us, and we are excited about working hard to make sure that you win this chair. As I mentioned at the beginning of this call, and as we discussed with Keith, one of the biggest coming organizing opportunities will be around the Supreme Court. And Republicans are attempting to steal the seat after successfully blocking Obama's pick from even getting a single hearing from over a year. So yesterday, Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon pledged to filibuster Trump's nominee unless the choice is Merrick Garland, and that's a great start. But Merkley can't do it alone. We need to call on the entire Democratic caucus in the Senate to stand united in opposition. So please, take a moment right now to sign our petition demanding Senate Democrats join Senator Merkley in filibustering Trump's choice. For those of you who are listening to this call on our website, you should see the petition on the right-hand side and sign it there. For everyone else, you can go to democracyforamerica.com/Supreme Court right now and add your name. That's democracyforamerica.com/Supreme Court. Now, the resistance can't be just about standing up to Trump and the Trump agenda. It also has to be about building a strong opposition party. It's about electing Democrats nationwide at all levels of office who will fight for us. And that's why it's critical that we elect Keith Ellison as the next DNC chair. We'll be sharing a recording of this call, and I would encourage you to share it with your friends, family, and like-minded coworkers so they can hear about Keith's message for rebuilding the party. So while we stand united in opposition to the Trump agenda, we also need to talk about why we stand united in support of Keith Ellison to lead and rebuild the Democratic Party. And of course, in the days ahead, we'll be following up with additional actions that you can take to help Keith win as we get closer to the DNC chair election at the end of this month. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Together, we will fight back. We will stand united in opposition, and we will win. Thank you, and good night.